What about collective karmas? For example, and lately I've been hearing this on podcasts that, certain souls who are very evolved, they choose some of the toughest life lessons so the society can awaken. Why the soul always has to choose tough life lessons? My point being, lately we have seen so much of atrocity and so much of rage and so many of acts which are really horrible. And my assumption from that, whatever little I've heard, is that, those souls were evolved, so they kind of chose these lessons very consciously. But the point is that the society is still not awakened. And in fact, I feel it's just getting worse. Like, people are like, every time a threshold is pushed, I feel those kind of people feel, oh, a new threshold can be created and we can push it even further. So the whole purpose of the soul taking of so much of suffering on themselves in this body, then it's kind of diluted. It doesn't even, it doesn't stand anywhere. So why does the soul always have to take the suffering? Why can't it be like, we will stand up for it, or we'll stand against it and we'll fight it, so that the person knows that, you can't kind of mess with the boundaries.
Because without pain, there is no realization. And pain has to be to such a limit that we have to feel so much of discomfort that we are finally ready to change. And there's this, constant war between light and darkness. And so darkness also continues to do its own thing. See, there are two kinds of souls. One, who are coming to raise the collective consciousness of Earth at this point in time. When the Earth is ascending, something new is being birthed. It's like labor pain. So we can't say, why can't we go through birth without labor pain?
Right.
So it's in labor pain right now.
Okay.
And, everyone's pushing it. And think of the light as the baby, and the light is trying to push through. But there's a lot of, demonic forces that are also trying to control it. Till we realize that we have collectively reached a point where we cannot function like this anymore. Even if a small habit, Natasha, has to be changed and we have to change it, you know how much we resist. We resist diets, we resist exercise, we resist waking up in Brahma Muhurat. How many millions of times have we read, and how many of us get up? So it's a human nature to resist change. So therefore the collective souls. Now see, what's happening is light is sending more help. Children who are born in 2025 onwards, this is the beta generation, are only a generation of angels coming in. So they're going to be so much more conscious about so many things. You're saying, no, that why can't we just do? So we have been born at that point in time. That was required. So we have this resilience, saying that we'll go through so much and see the earth literally start to shift and we will support. So we have taken on that. Now they're the healers that are being born from 2025. All the babies that are being born are actual healers. So you will see in another 10 years how those things pan up. To your point of we are creating a new threshold, 100% we are. I think we are just at the edge of the tipping edge now, and things will shift. That is why so many podcasts on spirituality, everyone's also talking about it. Also because there's more highlight and media light on atrocities as well as dharma.
Yeah.
That everything's coming up. So it's just not the atrocities that are coming up. See how quickly dharma is coming up.
Yes.
The youngsters are going to it. All the spiritual places are now full. So definitely the light is also increasing. And it is our choice. Even watching a podcast that has demonic entities in it is a choice of karma. So people who watch podcasts on horrors and all that, beyond a point. One is to get your knowledge and understand how not to go on that line. But there are some people who just keep going and, doing the same thing. That's also creating their Kriyaman karma. Like I said, one is from a perspective of, okay, fine, this is happening. Let's know about it and how to stay away from it. That's fine. But overdoing of anything, reading those books, watching those movies again and again, you're going to be drawn to it eventually. So, yeah.
So what are the kind of karmas that we kind of inherit? Because like you said, that not all karmas are ours. Like, are we also absorbing someone else's karma? Yeah. And how does it happen?
Yeah. So karmically, we carry soul imprints on our DNA from our families, from our lineages. Now, one is the individual's growth. One is the growth as a family. One is the growth of a clan. And so in a tree of souls, there are different branches, and let's say different families or different clans, 1 family, 2 family, 5 families make 1 clan, and similarly clans, and this is all under one tree. So roughly around 3,000-4,000 souls under one tree. And therefore, not do we only have to evolve as ourselves, and it's a natural progression that when everybody in that family evolves, the family consciousness raises. So sometimes they are just not individual goals, they're family goals as well. So family goals to evolve will also then open the family up to family curses.
Okay.
So either the family is going through, everyone being like, come on, we need to do this and we need to, or sometimes families go into the darkness and they attract curses and misfortunes and, things like that. Then the whole consciousness goes down. Then many souls have to take it up upon themselves to first come to neutral and then go up. So that family goes through a cycle of a difficult generational trauma. Like this girl that I told you about, the one who was born with the thing. Sometimes some relationships in a family can also make the family go down. And sometimes two people can be born as brothers or sisters in this lifetime to learn certain lessons and be the two brothers who took the whole family forward. So there are a lot of interplay of family, these things. But curses typically are carried on the soul DNA. So if someone says that, your 7, generations are not going to see the happiness of a marriage, and let me see how this gets, and, pours the holy water on them. And let's say those people accept that curse. Then you will notice there are, histories of a person dying early, or the marriages will not work, or the divorces will happen, or whatever it is. So you will see that. But can all this be let gone of? Yes. But this does bring the family consciousness down.
So all the people who would go through it, like all these family members, of course, someone did the kind of curse them. But people who went through that suffering, they also somehow chose it, I'm assuming.
Of course. As a family, you also take family responsibility. Like in a day-to-day, also you would take. If you have a younger brother, you may be teaching him. You may be helping your mother clean the garbage. Or, someone will have the duty of locking the house at night. So as a family, we take responsibility. And then some brave souls will come forward. Now, for example, 2 brothers have done some heinous crime. And because of them, the whole family is cursed. Now, those 2 brothers will have to take birth again, definitely, for the individual karma. But let's say, they have compassionate souls in their mother or father and say, okay, we'll be born as this. Don't worry. We are strong souls. We have a lot of good prarabdha. And we are going to, come and support you. So, आपके negative marks में हम अपने positive marks लगा देंगे. That kind of a thing. We give you that, So, while you suffer, we'll have a safety net. At least we'll have the money to take you to the hospital or like whatever. And sometimes it's really bad. Sometimes it, it can be that the whole family is really in bad shape. And then they will have to. So, you do see families being wiped out and, air crashes and all of that. So, that is...
Okay. So is it only the curse where we absorb someone's karma, or it can be any other possibility also, apart from curse?
A contract.
Yeah, okay.
A contract could be one, an unfinished contract, a twin flame contract, a blood oath.
Okay. What is a blood oath?
A blood oath is when 2 people are so convinced about their relationship or an idea, for example, that we are going to be, born as, the gatherers of this tribe or whatever. Everyone cuts their hand, pours their blood together. And the universe says, okay, good. This is like a double, triple sealed thing. Now they have to be born together. And sometimes it's for really good work. Sometimes people just decide that it's for really good work. So healers are born together. Tribes are born together. Sometimes lovers are born together. These curses are more difficult to break because the contract seems to be signed and, like sealed in a more intricate way.
Language.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So if someone in the family notices that, they also have a pattern, which they can spot in other family members also, and it's like a recurring thing that they've been seeing. Like and it's not necessary that it's only their immediate family. I'm talking about the Tauji maybe tha, or wo mere grandparents maybe tha, or forefathers may tha. But someone has been able to notice it, right? And they feel that, okay, no, this is not a good trait to have, right? So then can they take it upon themselves that, okay, individually, of course, I'm going to work on it, but can they do something so that it doesn't kind of show up in the next generations?
Yes, you can start doing the work. It's like really starting with a small Scotch-Brite and cleaning a mountain, but we can still start.
Okay.
And starting is always a good idea. Cleaning the Akashic records of the family is a good idea. awareness that you have to have a different this thing, and then slowly trying to make other people aware is like starting the work. Will you be able to finish it in this life? Maybe, maybe not. How many people will get influenced by your work? No idea. But you start the process. Awareness is everything. So if you can spot it and someone starts it, I think it's 50% of the battle won.
Wow. Interesting. I think it's not exactly karma, but somewhere related to karma. So, in Hindu culture, when two people marry, they say that, you're bound for 7 lifetimes, right? But we have seen some very crazy past life regression stories as well, where they were not husbands and wives in their previous lifetimes. They were actually staunch enemies, right?
Yeah.
Is there also possibility that with someone that you have a relationship of respect and boundary, जिसे बोलते हैं ना लिहाज का रिश्ता है, that in some lifetime you can actually end up in an intimate relation?
Absolutely.
It can happen?
Absolutely.
Really?
The soul chooses different incarnations and different relationships to learn different ways. So I know of 2 brothers who were staunch enemies in their previous life, who are staunch enemies in this life, and in their previous lives they were lovers, they were gay. And the society just didn't support them. Okay. And one of them committed suicide because his father was not at all allowing for this relationship. And we are talking way back in the 1920s. And the other one got really, really angry about it. So, but they were bound by a contract that they will, sort of choose to be born together. And in this lifetime, they chose a, familial pattern where they were born as brothers. And in this life, one of them is meek and, still wants to get along. The other one's very dominating and doesn't want to, sort of. So he's the one who was left behind in the previous life. So when they saw their Akashic records, they realized that, they have chosen this relationship so that it's safe. In this life, they can actually go through love in a safe way. Not that kind of love, but love. So how we categorize love in our lives, whether it's sexual or it's brother-sister love or it's mother-child love, the soul sees love as an expression of an emotion. So they wanted a safe environment in this. So they were born as brothers. And when they resolved this and they cleared their records, the family records, they realized that they were so excited to work with each other because they intuitively knew how to get along with each other from their previous life. And they so enjoyed it. Now they've built up a very big empire. They have a lot of smaller companies that they are running. They have a very clean division of energy. They have very good families. And they really, intuitively, it's like having a twin. They can read each other's minds. So the soul strengths are carried. The wounds are also carried for us to clean in this life. So the relationship that it manifests in doesn't matter. Because love is a very pure, emotion.
But then if taking the same example, that if someone was kind of in a love relationship in the past and now that they have more of a respectful relationship in the sense the boundaries, right? But don't the residual feelings, the emotions, it kind of gets trapped in our energy body. Doesn't that get carried forward?
No, only the lessons get carried forward. And maybe the trauma gets carried forward. And always a longing of a human being for another human being is in the whole, this thing of unconditional love. The final aim of the soul is unconditional love.
So even the unmanifested love is the longing for unconditional love.
It's not a longing for another human being or his body. It's the longing to find yourself via another person. So love is not something that I see in your eyes or you see in someone else's eyes. Through you, I'm able to meet myself, the part of me that is connected to the divine. That is why Mirabai fell in love with Krishna. He was not, present in a physical form.
Right.
Through someone, when we are able to meet our own selves, and we just love that divine self, which is actually God. So you are just the trigger. So I'm longing for love, not someone's love. I'm longing for love, so I take another birth. I hope to find somebody who can trigger that love in me. And when that somebody dies, I feel that I will never be able to meet anybody. And that's the whole point of spirituality. You meet God, not where God is. You meet God where you are. Only to that extent.
We have seen lately, you read news and they're absurd news. You hear such stories like this is very much for real, as much as people would kind of brush it under the rug, but it is very much prevalent in the society that people have found love in relationships where, like I said, it's more of a boundaries that they have to play, right? So now, of course, these are the norms, and very rightly so. This is a societal construct, also very important to kind of make the society thrive, right? But then how does it play out in the karmic world? If someone kind of crosses that line, how does that play out in the karmic world?
It definitely plays out in their future karma,
Okay.
in their Kriyaman karma. But maybe the lesson, maybe this is not karmic. Maybe they are learning a lesson through this.
Okay.
Maybe betrayal is the lesson of the person who is left behind.
Through
Maybe
this,
acting very composed and having compassion for the two people who fled, who are in any case under the society's scrutiny.
Right.
It's not good or bad. It's a
Right.
choice they made.
right,
Right?
right,
And the person who's left behind also has a choice to make. Either victimizing themselves,
yeah,
or being compassionate, or being neutral, or running away just like they ran in this direction, this person runs in this direction, or having a rebound relationship in a second that I'm wrong so I can also do this. That choice is the free will of the person who's left behind. Did they create karma? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. If you look at it from whether it was a karmic problem or it was a lesson that they needed to learn, maybe they were fulfilling a contract of a previous life. Maybe their lesson was courage, and in the previous lives they just didn't have the courage, and maybe in this life it shows up as this rash action. So from the societal perspective, definitely it's wrong. But from a soul's perspective, it's going to be measured by A, whether it was their lesson or a karmic contract.
Okay.
Second, what was the previous karma between the three people? One who was left behind and the two who ran away.
right.
So is it a balancing of that? Or is it a, fresh karma that is created?
Okay.
That kind of a thing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manmeet. Again, an episode of absolute delight, discovery, awe, and whatnot. It's always a pleasure holding the conversation with you and like getting so much of downloads and insights from you. I really hope that today's episode is again a portal where other people can transcend and get to know more deeper about karma theory. So big gratitude to you. Thank you so much. for
Good to
being
be
in
here.
charge.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to all you lovely people who stuck till the end, please don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. If you think that someone thinks really deeply about karma all the time, don't forget to share this episode with them. And we will be back again with another exciting episode and another exciting guest. Till then, take care. Thank you.